people coming in and out. And then on the second day of this event, they decided they wanted me down in the bar area doing stuff. And I said, look, I'm not really a bar magician or anything. And they went, no, we don't want you to do anything like that. We just want you to be there, be interacting with people, and, you know, if the mood strikes you, do your weird stuff. So I went back to my hotel room and I thought, what could I do? I want to do something with the drink because, you know, it's a corporate event really. So they wanted something to do with the product. And I knew they had cocktails there because I'd sampled a few and they were very nice. So I thought, could I do something with that? Maybe there could be a flavour, maybe because someone could think of a flavour and then I tell them what flavour of cocktail they want. But that was a bit simple. And I thought this slightly silly idea of they write down the flavour of the drink they want. And I tear it up, I put it in a drink and I pour in the gin and I pour in a couple of other things, mix it around and go, yeah, strawberry. Strawberry is the flavour you were thinking of. So I used a centre tear, and this is a good excuse for me to talk about one of my versions of the centre tear. So in performance, what would happen is I'd ask someone to write down the flavour that they wanted, and I told them it could be literally any flavour. It could be something silly like, you know, Play-Doh or unicorn or something like that, or it could just be simple like gin flavour or tonic or lime or strawberry or vanilla, anything they could think of. They'd write it down in the centre, I'd fold it up, I'd tear it, I'd put it inside the cocktail shaker. I don't have a cocktail shaker with me, so I'll use my Pop Ross mug. I'd then pour in some of the gin, I'd then grab this and pour it in there and go, what's that? Just to chuck in a whole lemon, put the lid on, shake like this, take the lid off, and then pour it into a cup, one of their little Hendrix cups they had, and drink it. Now obviously, if you've ever used a cocktail shaker, the lid also has like this sort of sieve, almost like filters it, so I'm not actually drinking any of the bits of paper or anything like that. Very occasionally it was actually real gin because I picked up the wrong bottle. I had a bottle with water in. That was quite exceptional. Pour it in, drink it. And also what's great about this is because I've stolen the centre, rather the entire middle third for my tear, because the pieces that are left, they can't really be examined because they're now covered in alcohol and water and liquid and they're a bit gross. So it's a perfect excuse for me to just dump that in the bin and never mention it again. So that's another little bonus to this little silly idea. But the centre tear I was using was not the standard centre tear. It was my own variation. Now normally with a centre tear it's literally the centre of the billet that you're taking, but with mine it's slightly different. So I'll talk about exactly how and show you it right now. So usually with a centre tear we think of it as being the exact centre of the billet, and with small billets it means it's going to be a very small area and you have to think of slightly weird and unusual reasons to justify why they're writing exactly in a circle. But with my particular billet centre tear, it's actually a middle third. You're going to be stealing this middle third, this entire section right here is what you're going to end up with. So you also need to fill in these areas here. So this was your drink for this particular one, so I'd write your and then drink just to fill up that space, and then at the bottom I'd write thank you, just like that. Normally I'd write it a bit neater, and I would draw a box. I draw a box so it's really clear that they should write their flavour that they want in there. So let's go with something boring. Let's say they're not very imaginative and they write lime. I then ask them to refold the billet, so it's already pre-folded. And it's folded in not in a particular way, but in a way that will help you in a moment, where if you fold it over, you leave a little bit of a lip here. And the same again when you fold it this way, you leave a bit of a lip here, so you've got some looser edges here. Now normally with a centre tear, you find the centre, which is right here. I'll draw a little mark on here so you can see it slightly better. That's the centre. So with the centre tear, you normally keep that right here. That's where your thumb and finger go. You tear down the middle and you keep track of the center point. But with this particular option, you want your center point to be down and towards your dominant hand, your right hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to steal the center with my right hand. This also makes tearing the slightly thicker card that I've got easier, because these are the loose edges. If I'm trying to tear along here, I've got a really thick piece to try and get through. And you don't want to look like you're going, there we go. Because that really does draw attention to the fact that you really need to tear this in a very certain way. So the center is down towards my right hand because I'm right-handed. I tear exactly down the middle thusly, and again it's much easier because the loose leaf is at the top here. I tear like this, and then going to turn both like this. So they're turning in on themselves. So the right hand piece with the center, because I'm right-handed, is going to turn clockwise, and this is going to turn anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. These then go sort of on top of each other, but like this. So the centerpiece is slightly further this way, and I'm gripping it like this. So exposed view, I'm holding it like this. Because we've got these loose edges right here, I'm going to reach in and just pull one of those two bits out, because this is actually made of two bits of paper just like this. I'm going to pull this piece out like this, which means I can then tear this, because it's very thin now, it's only 2 layers of card. That gets torn. Now these are 2 separate pieces. I then reach in and grab this middle bit whilst tearing that back bit, and then tearing this bit. So I've got lots and lots on the left here of pieces now, but I've still got the middle third here. I haven't torn this at all. The only tear that happened was when I went down and turned, and this piece never gets torn again. The rest is all happening with the leftover pieces in it, which are to your left in your left hand. And in the usual manner, you steal away the centerpiece, so you pull it down. This happens as you bring this hand down to relax it. You pay no attention to this while it's being finger palmed. Because these are small, you can literally just finger palm it with one finger. Keep your hands relaxed. These then went into the cocktail shaker, like this. Gave them a little jiggle jiggle. And then start looking for other things to use, so other bits of alcohol. And as I went down here to find the alcohol, I go, that's good. I put a big bottle here, and then go, what's this down here? And as I'm coming down here, behind the bar, this was good because I was behind a bar, I could open up this billet. So open up this billet, you push that way, so it opens up, and then you can push your thumb in just like that. I sort of did that move as I was looking for something, and then just threw it down there with bits of lime and other stuff that was there, so that I could pour this in here. I hadn't looked at it yet. Poured in a bit of this, put the lid back on, put it down, got my peek and saw that it said lime, grabbed something else, poured that in, put the next bottle on top of my stolen piece, put it on top so it's gone, it's out of sight now. I don't have to worry about it anymore. In my brain I'm going lime, lime, lime. Put the lid on the cocktail shaker, shake it all around, take the thing, sieve it, pour it in. Continue with my presentation. This is a cute and slightly novel way to motivate tearing a billet that I came up with. And again, I didn't come up with this because I wanted to motivate the tearing. I came up with it because I liked the idea of it. So if they just wrote it down on, say, an electronic impression device, or even just a regular billet peak where the billet isn't destroyed, it didn't feel quite as neat. It would feel a bit like you have to write this down in order for me to be able to taste this and know what you're thinking of. It was a bit simplistic. So instead, I thought, well, if we tear it up and put it in the drink, that kind of makes sense. It's like you're making their thought, their written piece of information, you're making it part of the cocktail, and that's how you know. So I thought, well, the centre test is perfect for this, because it's motivated. It's motivated by the context of this slightly whimsical and silly idea that just by tearing up a piece of paper with a word written on it and then imbibing that liquid, it's almost holistic, where you can get the information that way. It was quite an enjoyable idea, and it suits me. Switching billets can either be achieved using some kind of apparatus or good old-fashioned sleight of hand. Whichever option and whatever way you achieve the switch is irrelevant. What's important is motivation. There's something very appealing about the clarity of holding a single billet at fingertips, but often sleight of hand billet switches can look more like bad magic. Suddenly all the rules of sleight of hand disappear. Misdirection becomes weird and unusual hand gestures. I don't personally like switching a billet using sleight of hand without having a reason or motivation for me to touch the billet in the first place. When you take a billet from someone, they expect you to do something with it. And taking a relatively small piece of card in your comparatively large hands, it's only sensible for someone to assume that what you did was swap it. So if the billet is placed inside something, a box, an envelope, a cup, then the motivation is clearly to isolate it. In more formal performances, where you are part of the event's entertainment, it makes sense that you would have brought a secure-looking black envelope with a question mark on it, or a large, ornate wooden box. But if you are performing impromptu in someone's kitchen, then it's better to use a handy mug to isolate the billet. In close quarters, having a container of some kind can work wonders. What exactly that container is depends on you and your style. One man's pay envelope is another man's crystal skull. So I normally only ever use sleight of hand based methods for switching, so bare hand, sleight of hand methods for when it's a casual environment or a close-up environment, because it's busy with lots of people talking and lots of things going on and being around you. It means you can find ample misdirection to do the moves that we're going to discuss. I'm by no means an expert when it comes to switching billets. I will go over a couple of the basic options. I'm sure many of you watching this already know them, and if you don't, or you'd like to know more about them, I can highly recommend Elliot J. Bresler's Switchcraft. It's a PDF and it's huge. There's so many supplements. It's basically War and Peace, but about billets and switching them specifically.
Nescafe Gold раскрывает свой богатый вкус и насыщенный аромат для самых ценных моментов. Ценные моменты создаешь ты. Nescafe Gold. Заказывайте в приложении «Пятерочки».
And like I was saying, a reason to pick up the billet and move it is always good. Not just a reason, but a motivation, and motivated within the context, not just making an excuse without sort of talking aloud to yourself. Just make it very clear that what you're doing. Just have a kind of a silent script. Be an actor. Just in your mind, you're taking this and going, yeah, here's good. That's what you want to do. In your mind, you're kind of thinking, you know, okay, so this is this. We want to keep this somewhere safe. So where's it going to be? Is this any good? Yeah, here. So keep your hand on top of there, so you know it's nice and safe. The moves that you could use are, of course, the Annemann switch, like this. That's without any misdirection, but of course, a larger action can always hide the smaller action. That's a classic of misdirection. If you want to reach for something and then do this and then pop it in there, and you've stolen away that one. Al Baker's switch, which is when you take one billet and seemingly transfer it from one hand to another. It can be a little bit fiddly to do because they can sometimes feel like you're going to drop it, so that's worrying. There's a better version out there where you sandwich your dummy billet on top. You know, they open up like little tiny tents. You can squeeze it like this, but this is happening behind your hand. I'll get a close-up view of this. So as I'm squeezing the billet here, I've taken the spectator's billet, either I put it like this, or I've picked it up off the table. And because I'm squeezing down here, that leaves me plenty of room, as you can see from this close-up shot, to grip the dummy billet at its far end and hide their billet behind my palm, which can of course be justified by taking your right hand over here to take the mug and then dropping the billet inside their dummy billet and passing it off to them, stealing away this billet. And of course the classic coin move. If you think about billets about this size being palmed in your hand, then they're just coins. They're just like coin magic. So even a classic Bobo switch can take place. You can have, instead of palming the billet like this in sort of a, let's call that landscape mode, you can palm it like this in portrait mode. And this works perfectly for a Bobo switch. And a Bobo switch is, of course, you take a billet at fingertips like this, and in the action of sort of going to throw it somewhere, you pull this one back into thumb clip and release your dummy billet from finger palm. And then because it's thumb clip, you can then bring your thumb up and you haven't got the weird disappearing thumb problem. Thumb clip allows you to just kind of be a bit more relaxed. So when you take the billet, you bring it up and then go, let's keep it in there so we know it's nice and safe. For switching multiple billets on stage, you can't get much better than the classic OM box or OM box. I had a friend who works with wood make one for me. He's certainly much better than I am at that sort of thing. They can easily be constructed out of cardboard, but you can even buy them from online magic dealers. For switching one billet in a cabaret or parlour setting, however, my go-to switching device is the flapless envelope switch, or rather the Shaxson flap version, which not only looks better to keener eyes, but also allows the spectator to put the billet in the envelope themselves. So the flapless envelope switch, or rather the Shaxson flap version, is my preference for when switching a single billet on stage. And the isolation of this billet is, of course, the envelopes. And what I love about the Shaxson flap version is, of course, you just need to buckle your little stack of envelopes. I've got slightly too many there. You just need to buckle your stack of envelopes, and you can just offer it to them like this and tell them to put the billet in themselves, which they do. You can then shake it down. I lick the top, pull it out, and then write their name on the back. It's kind of, I feel it's being slightly bold. I mean, it's not that bold, but here's my handling. So they put it in themselves, and then take it like this and lick the sealing part, the glue, the gum that's there, or if it's a peel and seal, I'll peel that off. But as I'm doing that, as I'm licking it or peeling off the little peel and seal bit, I'll slightly pull out the envelope like this. So this has now exposed the Shaxson flap there, but obviously that's facing me. And then I immediately take my hand and go like this to seal it, ostensibly to seal it. But what it obviously does is means I can sort of second deal it like this. But I don't just then hand it to them, I flip it straight over on top of the stack, and I ask them their name if I don't already know it, or go, it's Emma, isn't it? All right, Emma, like that. And I deal it off to them and sort of hand it to them like this. It feels slightly bold because hiding in this envelope right here is their actual billet, and this envelope doesn't have a little flap to it. So it feels a little bit bold, but it looks very natural. You ask them to seal your piece of paper inside there. Fantastic. Lick, seal. It's Emma. Yes, fantastic. E-M-M-A. Is that correct? Fantastic, Emma. Take that and hide it somewhere safe for now. Nice and simple. I really like it. Then you've stolen this billet to do with something at your leisure. Usually I'm using smaller envelopes. I use slightly bigger ones for you because I wanted them to show up on camera rather than using the pay envelope size, which is probably about yay big. But with a pay envelope, it's very easy for you to, if I get this in the right sort of position for this size of envelope, as you take this stack, you buckle them, place your thumb inside, put those away in your inside jacket pocket or in your bag, and as you do that, you just steal out their billet to read at your leisure or do anything you want with. So I thought I'd go over the construction of a Shaxson flapless envelope switch because I've got a few tips you might find useful. So begin by tucking in the flap of one envelope and put it to the side for now. Now we're going to cut off the flap plus a little bit extra to make a Shaxson flap from this one. And the best way to do this is cut about halfway using the flap as your guide, and then just cut off the bottom of the envelope. Keep this for now, that'll be useful in a moment. Now cut off the front part by just cutting little triangles like this. Nice and easy. That means we can then get rid of this front piece. We don't need that. Get rid of the excess. Now you want to make sure that this Shaxson flap is actually not covering the glue of the real flap, so you might need to trim it like this. That's so you can still seal the envelope later. Now flip this whole piece over and use that scrap envelope as a backing, because we're going to liberally apply some glue to the back of the flap. Like this. I'm using some blue glue so you can see it nice and clearly. Lots and lots of glue. Really want it to stick down. Messy job. Get rid of that. And now we're going to stick this little flap to this flap. Just like this, and make sure it's nice and neatly aligned. Make it as neat and tidy as you possibly can. And make sure the crease is really nice and sharp by running your fingernails over it, because remember this is now 2 thicknesses of paper, and that's our Shaxson flap right there. You want to make sure that the corners are nicely glued down. If they're not, you might need to apply some more glue, just like this. A little bit more glue in the corner there. Get rid of that excess, and then pinch it so it sticks down. Otherwise that can cause some issues. So that's our Shaxson flap done. We've got a dummy billet here that we're going to put inside this envelope, which is obviously important. Push it in, push it all the way down, make sure you're using the same cardstock as you're going to use in performance, and then press around the billet. This leaves like an indentation, an impression of the billet inside, which means they can see it's in there as well as feel it later. Now take your flapless envelope and slide it onto the little Shaxson flap there. so it lines up nice and neatly. Make sure it's nice and flat, and also pinch this area here of the envelope. This will really help when you're buckling the envelope later and asking the spectator to put their billet inside. Now place it on top of a stack of envelopes. Make sure that's nice and neat. And like I said, in performance you buckle the envelope, which makes it nice and easy because you put those pinchers in before. They put their billet inside. You pull it out slightly, lick, seal and flip it over in one motion, write their name on the outside and hand it off to them. They'll then feel and see that there is indeed what they believe to be their billet inside. So we tend to think of billet work as billets being folded, usually folded into quarters and starting about the size of a playing card, as Corinda puts it. In truth, they're normally folded because that makes it much easier to finger palm them. But in close-up environments, you're more likely to be using your business cards as billets. You can either be using double blank business cards or have your information printed on one side, keeping the other side blank, so someone can draw a picture or write a word and then use these as billets. But I want to talk to you now about using them in such a way that you're not going to fold them. So these are kind of non-folded billet techniques. I'm going to be using playing cards to show these moves, blank-faced playing cards. All these are blank-faced, but the back is still a regular bicycled back, because it'll make it slightly easier to show you the moves, because these moves we're going to be using, which work perfectly well with business cards, these moves are based on card moves. In fact, they are card moves. I'm sure lots of you might have started doing magic before you moved into mentalism, or even if you're like me and only ever really did mentalism, certainly professionally, along the way I have learnt some card moves, either out of sort of interest or because some card moves are useful for things such as this or apply nicely to mentalism routines. So let's use these as our example. Now all of these you're going to have to start with the spectator's drawing or word or name or whatever they're writing needs to be on top of the stack. Now rather than hand them a card and say please write something or draw something, rather than handing them a single card and then turning around and I have to take it back and put it on top and then do something and then give it back to them, what I find much easier to do, because I need it to be on top of the stack for all of these moves, is handing them the entire stack and telling them to flip over a card, do their drawing or write whatever they want, and then flip it back over so I can't see what it is. Nice and simple. So that's what they do. You hand them a stack just like this, they do their drawing or write a word or whatever you want. Once they're finished, they just flip it back over. It's nice and simple for them. There's nothing for them to get wrong. Just a quick word on orientation of the thing that they've written or the drawing that they've made. You've shown them to flip it over like this. So 99% of the time, they're going to do exactly the same flipping over, just like this, because it's nice and easy just to go diddle diddle da and flip it over. They will of course be holding it this way, which means to them, the smiley face that I've just drawn, hopefully you can see that on the camera, is facing that way. So if I were to take the cards back and peek it, I would have an upside down word or an upside down smiley face or whatever they've drawn. So when I take it back from them, after they've flipped it over, I take it back with my right hand and then turn it like this. Because in a moment I'm going to be stealing this off or switching it out for a dummy, and I want to be able to peek it nice and easily without worrying about which way up it's going to be. So using drawings means you don't have to worry too much about the orientation. If you look at most drawings upside down, you can still tell what it is. But we'll get more into how to make sure that you're going to be able to read a word or a name in a moment. But for now, let's go over the moves. So as I said before, all of these start with the spectator having left their drawing, their word, on top of the stack. I'm then going to switch that for a dummy. There's a few different ways, in fact there's a number of different ways, but before I switch it, before I get into switching it, there's one thing I always do, which is once I've taken it back from them, either I've picked it up off the table or I've taken it from their hands and holding it in my hand now, I always show them their drawing or their card one last time. This gives me an opportunity to peek it if the lighting is strong enough. So let's say my spectator is you, and let's say the sun is behind them, or there's some powerful lights behind them. And because I'm a smart mentalist, I went around the room earlier and went, yeah, here's a good position, because when the light's facing this way, I can see through the card. Certain types of business card stock, especially if you haven't got much writing on the back, you can see someone's drawing through the card with powerful lights behind it. So with their drawing on top, I'll always out jog it like this and turn my head away and say, just take one last little look at your picture and just really commit it to memory. And in that moment, as I go and really commit it to memory, I take a quick look, and if I see it, I know what it is. Brilliant. My peek is done. If I have seen it, I'll bring it down and say, hold your hand out. Hold on to your drawing. You can crumple it into a ball. You can put it in a pocket. You can put your hands between it, or I'll give them the whole stack and tell them to cut it and just put it in the middle. It's a bit weird that I have to take it and give it back to them, but I'm so clean with this peek because they have their drawing. They know I've not switched it. They know nothing's happened. They've got their drawing in their hand and they're holding it, and then I'm going to duplicate it or reveal the word. So that's just one little opportune moment, just taking advantage of a situation or an environment where if you hold it up like this and you can see through it, you might as well take advantage of that and give it back to them, and they hold on to it. So let's assume though that the situation means
Nescafe Gold раскрывает свой богатый вкус и насыщенный аромат для самых ценных моментов. Ценные моменты создаешь ты. Nescafe Gold. Заказывайте в приложении «Пятерочки».
or the lighting in the environment means you can't see through the card, you're going to have to switch this for a dummy and then peek it at an opportune moment. We'll get into how I peek it in a moment, but for now let's go over the switches that can take place. The first switch, and the easiest switch, is just palming in a blank card on top of their card, having a bit of time misdirection for a few seconds, then taking that now added blank card and then taking it off and putting it underneath, something like that, retaining their drawing on top. So you can have a card in your pocket, a blank card. So when they're doing their drawing and you turn around, you reach into your pocket, get the blank dummy card in palm, and then as you turn around, let's say they've left their stack on the table, you turn around, immediately just dump that palmed card on top like this, and then pick up the stack. Ask for the pen, put it in your pocket and say, let's keep your drawing underneath this cup, let's say. Or if they've got it in their hand, you turn around, immediately just dump that palmed card on top. As you take them, ask for the pen, put it in your pocket, and go, we need to keep your drawing somewhere safe. Let's put it underneath here like that, and of course you've retained it on top. It's nice and simple. If I'm not wearing a jacket and I'm doing this on the fly in the spur of the moment and I haven't prepared by keeping some dummy billets, some dummy business cards in my pocket, you can palm one off if you know how to palm. The spectator's drawing there. So as I'm explaining to them, I want you to draw a picture, and when you're finished, flip it back over. Nice and simple. I'll get you a pen, reach into my pocket, and as I'm reaching into my pocket, I will palm off a blank card so I'm ready to add it to the stack when I turn back around. It's worth learning just a simple move like a one-handed top palm. It works perfectly with business cards as well. Anything that you can palm and just pop it into your finger, just like that. It's hard to explain. I'm not very good at explaining. It's just something I learned. You grip it like this, 3 fingers here, thumb at the back. Your little finger pushes down on the further right-hand corner, sort of in that direction, pointing down, and it just pushes it up into your palm. So you've stolen one away. Yeah, so I tell them to finish their drawing, flip it over, nice and simple. Let me just get you a pen, give it to them, give them the stack, turn around, and I've got this in palm, ready for turning around where they've got their drawing on top now. Dump it on top, pick up the stack, ask for my pen back, which gives us a moment of time misdirection. Take this, put it under here, and I've retained their drawing on top. There are, of course, other card moves that are possible. There's the classic colour change. You know when you hold, this won't work because this is all blue, but you know when you hold the deck like this, you push and then you go like this and make a colour change. Actually, I can show you like this. So we've got this set up like here. You know the classic colour change when you push and you, ooh, where's he gone? This is the magic printing effect. You push, zzz, printed a picture. So what's happening here is you are pushing the top card forward with your fingertips. This is all happening underneath your hand, but you push them forward with the fingertips, and then this part of your fingers here, so the base of your fingers, so the very top of your palm, the base of your fingers connects with the card underneath, which is now exposed underneath here, and pulls that card down, just like that. This is all happening under cover of your fingers. It pulls it down and then pushes it over this card, and as you come back up, it's now covering it, so when you push this down, you've now switched it. And if you do that with a face down card, so their drawing is on top, if you do that with it face down, it's not a color change anymore. It's not a color change, it's just a switch. A color change or a magical change is obviously something has changed, but a switch is when something looks like it hasn't changed. So you push up like this, pull it out, go like that, and now the blank card is on top. And that's all done under the guise of pushing it up to show them their picture one last time, like this. As I come down like this, I'm going to pull that other card down underneath my hand and then push it back up on top. And that all happens as I come down like this, and then undercover push that back down. So I'm sure you are familiar with the rub-a-dub-dub vanish. It's a great little vanish with playing cards. You show someone a card, you place it underneath your hand on a table, you rub-a-dub-dub, and it vanishes. And obviously all that's happening underneath is you are pushing the card like this as your hand comes over it. What happens is your hand pulls this card back and turns like this in one motion. So it looks like this, but your hand is covering it. So you show the card through your fingertips, poking out between your fingertips and also poking out behind your pinky finger there. And as you push forward with this hand, you pull with this thumb and turn this hand away, so it becomes something like this, and you rub-a-dub-dub and vanish. So now if you already have a dummy card in palm, as previously mentioned, and you do this move, it's become a change, a switch, in fact. So you can use this very nicely with business cards or blank face playing cards like this by showing them their drawing. You start with one in in palm. You've either taken it from your pocket or you've stolen one off before, like I mentioned. You show them their drawing, take a little look just in case you can see through it, and say, we need to keep this somewhere, so if you just keep it underneath your hand just like that, and you do the rub-a-dub-dub change in that moment. And it's nice and simple. The card just automatically, as soon as you place your hand on top, automatically just comes out of palm, and they can see it between your fingers as well, so they know it's really there. Your hand is like this, and to keep your hand on top, or if you're worried about them lifting up during the performance, you can say, take one last look at your drawing, and we need to keep this somewhere safe underneath your hand, or actually let's put it underneath this mug just like this, and obviously you've retained their drawing. I call that the rub-a-dub-dub switch, or the rub-a-dub-DD, the drawing duplication. It's a really nice move, and if you're pretty good with your card moves, you can even go quite Leonard Green with it by having it in a lateral palm and showing them their drawing and then dealing it onto the table like that. I don't know how that looks, I'm not great at Leonard Green stuff, but show them their drawing, deal it like this, put it underneath the mug. And obviously all that's happening there is you put it in lateral palm, holding it at the edge of the table in the classic style of an expert at the card table. Show them their drawing, let's say your participant's there, and then as you come to deal like this, you actually pull back here and allow the card in lateral palm to hit the table. So from an exposed view here, it looks like this. You show them their drawing and then deal like this. But at speed, it looks pretty good. Obviously the classic second deal works very nicely as well. You show them their drawing like this, take a little glimpse, and then feign looking for somewhere to put it, and in that moment you can just second deal it like this. It's better to do it in the motion of coming down like this. I'd recommend you push their drawing out so they can see it. You also slightly push the next card along out. Just remember your drawing, and as I come up I'm tapping so I can feel that this second card is right here. So as I come down like this, I pull out that second card. So it's kind of a second deal made slightly easier. This is kind of, it's easy to do a second deal with playing cards, but with business cards they're not as slick, they're not as smooth. So you show them their drawing, come up, you show them their drawing. You also slightly out jog the second card underneath. As you come down like this, your fingertips are touching this second card here, as you come down, your fingers are going to pull out that second card, and then your thumb is going to pull back their drawing, and it happens in one motion like this, as you then put it under an object. So at speed, you outjog their picture, show it to them, look to see if you can see through it. If you can, great, you can stop there, but if not, you ask them to remember their drawing and really commit it to memory. And as you come down, pull out the second card, switch it, and place it underneath an object. Remember, motivation. Some people just use double blank playing cards anyway during their performance, their close-up performances of mentalism, because you can do these card moves nice and easily. And there's one great card move. It's very similar to pulling it so you are out jogging two cards. So you push over the top card, you also slightly push out the second card, and as you come down, you're going to pull back that first card so it goes beyond the rest of the deck, and this leaves the second one quite loose, like this. So as you push down, it throws it onto the table. So you come up to show them their drawing, you also push the second card underneath slightly out, just like in the previous move. Ask them to remember their drawing, see if you catch a glimpse thanks to the lighting in the room, and as you come down, you throw it onto the table like that, and say, let's keep that underneath here. But in truth, what's happening is you're pushing over their drawing and this card, the second card, down. As you come down in one motion, as you throw it like this, you're going to pull back that first card all the way over here, so it's kind of lifting up, but you've still got a firm grip on the rest of the deck. And the action of you flicking like this throws that second card down onto the table for you to immediately take this left hand, lift up something and slide it underneath. And it really looks like it looks like you've just taken it and thrown it down like that. It really looks like it should, you know. Whatever method that you used to keep their drawing on top of your stack, and apparently have a separate drawing, or rather a dummy billet, underneath something so it's in plain view and it's motivated while you picked it up and touched it because you were going to put it somewhere to keep it safe. Whatever method you use is entirely up to you, and I don't always use the same method. I use various methods depending on the environment that I'm in, the person I'm working for, the type of stock that I'm using. So some of these moves, like the throwing it down to the table one, is a little bit easier with bicycle stock like this, because they are, you know, they're playing cards, these playing card moves, because they have a sort of softer surface, so they slide about nice and easily. But with some paper stock, something like that, it's not really going to work. So depending on the card stock I'm using, if I'm using these double blank index cards, if I'm using these double blank business cards, these tend to be not very smooth. They tend to stick together a bit too much. So I find doing something like having one in palm and then adding it on top works much better for double blank business cards. If you can get your business cards printed, then usually one side is nice and smooth. So some of these card moves where you are sort of second dealing and doing stuff like that works nicely. So no matter which move or switch you've done, the spectators believe you've taken their drawing and placed it somewhere safe. It's now isolated, it's out of your hands, but in reality, it's on top of the stack. So you now need to peek that. Now, no matter what method I've used, I will always do a double lift at this point. So they believe it's nice and safe. I will double lift these two cards and show that I've got a blank card here. I won't say, look at this blank card, I'll just do it casually. So I'll say, so I'll keep that somewhere safe, and can I have my pen back, please? So they can see that I have just done the same thing as them, apparently, just turned over the top card, and I'm asking for the pen back, because now it's my turn to write or draw something. But of course, because it's a double, if I lift this up, you can see their drawing nice and clearly. The easiest way to do this, especially with a drawing, is when this is facing me, I just pivot up that top card like this and start my duplication. But in reality, I'm looking at their drawing. So I've turned over a double, squared it up, and done this so I can see their drawing. Another option is, of course, that you push up the top card like this while you're holding it, and this covers your hand right here while you're writing something. And as you start writing, so today's date, your name, my name, and as you turn around, you can see their drawing nice and clearly like that. But if it's not a drawing, you might want to do something with a word. So here is how I would handle it. The very bottom half of the blank side of the business card, I would draw for them a box, and above it I would write a prompt, something I want them to write in that box. So let's say it's the name of their first kiss. So I would write first and then kiss. I do this as I'm talking to them, saying, I want you to think of something. So let's go with your first kiss. And then I draw the box and say, I want you to write the name, just the first name of your first kiss in the box right here. And when you're finished, just turn it over just like that. Write the name and just flip it over. Remember I said before that they're more than likely to just copy your action of flipping it over. So when you take it back, you're going to turn it. That means when I have done my switch and placed their billet somewhere safe, I do my double lift to turn over for my blank card. And then if I lift this up here to get my peek of the word or the name, it's nice and clearly at the bottom in that box. Or even if I just push the card up like this and hold it like this, I can see the name nice and clearly in the box because it's in the bottom half of the card. And even when I'm writing, if I'm in a close-up environment and people are walking all around me, my hand can cover that at any moment, and I can just move my hand slightly to see the name, keep writing and push this down with my hand covering. So now I'm nice and clean as I duplicate the name or the drawing or whatever it might be. I mentioned before that what if the person doesn't flip it like this? What if they flip it like that? Well, if you think about business cards, they've got a one-way design. If you orientate them all so they're all facing the same way, so if you flick through them.
Nescafe Gold раскрывает свой богатый вкус и насыщенный аромат для самых ценных моментов. Ценные моменты создаешь ты. Nescafe Gold. Заказывайте в приложении «Пятерочки».
They're all facing the right way up so you can read them. Then when you take your stack back from someone, you'll know which way round it is. So let's say, how can I do this? Let's do this. So let's do it like this. The piece you want to peek is at the bottom of the card right here. If they flip it over like that, that's point B. You see it says A and B right there. And the peeking section is going to be on the B side. So if I take the stack from them and I can see that the writing is facing, so I could read it like this, A, B, I know that if I turn it, just as I mentioned, and then flip it over, I can peek it. But if it's like this, so it's facing the wrong way, so it's could be read from this direction, I won't turn it. I'll just hold it here, knowing that B is going to stay at the bottom. You just need to pay attention to the orientation of your business card, the writing on your business card, and you'll never not have your peek. Either way, I orientate the stack of business cards so that top card is always going to be the correct orientation for when I turn over and peek their information in a moment. So you're now in this situation where you have written down or duplicated their drawing. So let's say I get my peek of the drawing of a smiley face, so I would do my own little smiley face, just like that. Then put my pen away. We're now in the situation where this is my drawing and this is their drawing. So I'm going to bring this back down with my drawing on top. And we're now going to do a double lift again, but pull out my card. I cannot remember the name of this move, but if I do it in slow motion, this is a double, my drawing's on top. I'm going to turn it over at the same time, pull with these fingers that top card, which is their drawing, and pull mine away and place it down. So again, at speed, I've finished my drawing. I'm going to turn and place it down like this. It was described to me like painting, like you're just painting the card like that. So you're kind of doing this. But in that action, you pull, both as a double, pull away the top card like that. So facing me right now is my drawing. Underneath that is their drawing. You can either do this move where you pull it there, grip the top card with your fingers and pull it away as you're taking away your drawing and place it off to the side. Or you can flip the whole thing over like this and then ask them to hold their hand out or do something whilst you second deal what is your drawing onto the table, retaining theirs still on top. So So no matter which move you use, your picture is now over here, and in fact in this situation, this is perfect. So your picture's over here, their picture's still on top. In this situation, with something like a mug on top, I would then take the mug and put it on top of my drawing, so it's now isolated and safe. We now need to check their drawing. The temptation here might be to take it and put it on top of the stack, and then do a second deal, or do a double lift to look at their drawing and show it around the room. But it's entirely unmotivated as to why you're picking it up and then putting it on top of a stack to look at it. It would just make sense if you just picked it up and looked at it. So here's what I would do. I'd pick it up and do that. It's as if I've picked something up, looked at it and gone, oh, it's upside down. So I've flipped it the right way up so I can look at it. I don't say any of this out loud, I just think this in my mind. So let's keep my one safe. Let me take a look at yours. I think that's a pretty good picture of a smiley face. Take a look at what I drew. This means all their attention will be over here and taking a look at your drawing, which means at this point, with this blank dummy billet right here and their billet on top, you could do something like a top change where you gesture, say, take a look at what I drew, whilst everyone's focused on your drawing. You do the classic sort of kind of bring your hands together and sitting back so you can top change. If you don't want to do a top change, then you could pick up the dummy, look at it and go, that's a pretty good drawing of a smiley face. Put it down, because you need to put it down because your hand is going to come over here, move the mug, and then turn over your drawing. Whilst people are reacting to that, while she's reacting, or whoever's drawn it is reacting to that, you have plenty of time to come over here and then do a second deal to put their picture next to it for comparison. So the key movements and moments in these flat billets, these business card peaks and billets, is you give them the stack with one card flipped over, they draw or write whatever they want, they then flip that over. Using any of the methods that I've discussed, you then switch their card for a dummy, which gets placed somewhere. I'm just using a mug to place it under here because remember I was talking about motivation before. There needs to be a reason why you're touching them in the first place and doing something with the billet, even if they are just flat business cards. You now retain their drawing or picture or word or name or whatever it might be on top of the stack, double lift, and then you can peek that information in a couple of different ways. You then deal off yours, your duplication, your written prediction of what you think the name is. You then check theirs. Of course, this is a dummy, so you need to at some point switch it for the original, and you can always do that under misdirection of them taking a look at what you wrote. It's an elegant little pantomime illusion of mind reading using some small unfolded billets. Peeking the contents of a folded billet is the holy grail of this kind of work. My advice is study the different options out there and see what works best for you and your needs, and ignore those ones that involve sort of secretly tearing the billet or allegedly allow you to open the whole billet, but in such a way that if you hold it at a certain angle, it still looks like it's folded, but not really. Don't do those. My own peak is a modification of Millard Longman's legendary Acidus Novus, and it's sort of a modification via Bush's billet from Peak Encores by Richard Bush. Both Acidus and Bush's peak are brilliant. I highly recommend studying them and the work of their creators. Richard Bush, his work on peaks alone is more than you'll ever need. Eyeline with billet work is very important. It's always better to bring a billet up to your eyeline to peak it rather than bringing your eyes down to where the billet is. Now my billet and its peak is designed to motivate to bringing the billet to your eyeline while using another object as misdirection. So when I think about billets, I don't really